I been wanting to do this for a while now. It's a DISTAR video about the reading system DISTAR. Now, I was given this book from my husband a while back when we were expecting our first child. It's called Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. And it just kind of hung out in our library until she was old enough and started showing interest in reading. I was like, let's check it out. And so we went through it. We did all of our 100 lessons. We had a few issues along the way, but we got through them. And DISTAR is an incredible system. Like, as I was learning how to use it and reading it, I was like, man, I wish I learned how to read like this. And I love to read. I'm a good reader. It just had that extra something special to me. So that's why I think you should really get into DISTAR. It's a direct instruction system, which means it tells the teacher exactly what to say, exactly what to do, when to do it, and exactly how to correct problems. And that's what is so special about it, is it basically makes it so the teacher cannot fail the student. And it was very, very, very successful. When you want to think about doing DISTAR with your child, is they can do bright 3.5-year-olds all the way up to 5-year-olds. It's not intended as a replacement for school learning and school reading. The book I used specifically is for teaching them, getting them into it, and then they can just move into school and learn from there. It is not recommended for people who are already learning to read but failing to learn to read from the school system. You have to use a different system for that than this particular book. What is so great about it is it just brings you in slow and steady and builds up confidence with games and fun, and then slowly introduces sounds. And it is meant to take about 15 minutes a day per lesson. We did not really do that. We took about 20-30 minutes per lesson. So I guess it's kid dependent. And so it's really just about 15 to 30 minutes a day, maybe sometimes more. And it's not that much time if you think about it and the kickback you get from it. So those are why you would really want to do DISTAR, in my opinion. If you're curious, if your kid is interested, if you're driving around and your kid is like, what does that sign say? What does that sign say? What's that building say? What's that word? Like, it's time to start teaching them reading. You don't have to wait for school. Like I said, DISTAR, this book specifically, probably look on Amazon for it. I think it's still available there, maybe. You can't go wrong. It's going to leave your child at a second grade reading level pretty much before they go into kindergarten. So it's a really good program. All right, here is the book that we found all those years ago in that used bookstore. And it was like a stroke of luck that we found this, because it is such a good instructional material to teach your child. Going through homeschool, we use Visions. It's not something that they have as one of their vendors or one of their programs. So you cannot use DISTAR, or, as far as I know, any of its direct things. They show you other programs that they do support. And it just is, it seems strange to see the title, but it really does. The lessons are easy, and there is 100 of them. So I'm just going to flip here to their alphabet. They made their own alphabet of sounds. Commonly, you got commonly blends here that they teach your child as a single sound, and it really helps the child just not stress about whether it's a long vowel or a short vowel. They can just see what sound it's supposed to make, which one it's supposed to be. And I know it's going to look like gibberish to someone who doesn't know this alphabet, but trust me, for your child, it's going to make getting into reading that much smoother and that much easier. And it's kind of like a backbone of the system, along with them hand-holding you and not letting you fail your child. So what we're going to do is we're just going to randomly skip to a lesson. This is definitely after lesson 13. Yeah, this is lesson 18. 13 is the first one that has your child reading a story. So by lesson 13, that is day 13, your child will be reading their very first story. That's how fast this thing goes. And it starts off pretty simple, practicing the sounds they already know. Then you play, there's different games. This one has a rhyming game where you start off with the sound you know and then you add a rhyme to it. So that you might have A as the rhyme. So you would be may, they. It's just a fun little activity, and it really helps them for lessons coming up later in the system. And it was developed through a lot of study, trial and error. And when they had something that children were struggling with, their philosophy was, okay, there's a problem with our system. There is not a problem with that child. So they would go back and adjust it and jerry-rig it and fix it, and really ended up with this. Just follow them and your child won't fail. That kind of a thing. All right, then we get to another practice on sounds after the game that they have you do, just to make sure, and then you get to have your child read this story. Very simple. Again, this is only lesson 18, so it's not a whole lot, not a whole big expectation. Shows them, okay, at the end of one line, follow the dotted lines down to the next line, and there's these little blocks in the middle so they can tell the difference between words. And as they progress, that all ends up going away. By lesson 74, it does change back into the real alphabet, and it transitions your child by saying, okay, this is the sound you know, now here's the actual alphabet, here's the letter name for it. So they actually learn A, B, C, D, if they don't already know that from singing the alphabet song. And then they learn, okay, A, for example, can have two sounds. It can have A and it can have A. And it teaches them that, and it just gets them used to that. Then it brings in capital letters by lesson 81. And after that, you're just having a grand old romp to the finish at that point. Your child is reading whole word stories. Let's see if I can find an example one here. Child will be reading that. Pretty easy. This literally, depending on how early you start, 4 years old, 4.5, easily somewhere around there, 5, reading this. All right, like I kept taking videos of my kids doing it and sharing it with all my friends and family, being like, look! I was so excited about it. Then at the end of the book, once you're done with your lesson 100, it has you do a blends. It has you do blends that they did not teach you. They give you a couple that they say, okay, now teach them this and this, and then teach them all the other ones, just assuming you know them. I didn't know them, but luckily I had already started homeschool at that point. Where did that get stuck to that for? And so I was able to just steal the homeschool blend cards that we hadn't done yet, and that's how I just made this for myself. It is E, so you have the two E's together, they still make the E sound, and then I made like some words that would use these for her to read, and then at the end I decided all on my own to make a story that had as many as I could make, and I just did that story bit on my own. You don't have to do the story bit, but it just was more fun to me to do it that way. And then for the finale, they say, give you a list of 20 books that they recommend. These are the ones I've been able to get a hold of. They start you off with this one, and we just read this one a couple days ago, and it was so much fun. The way it works, you just pull out, as you're like trying to find the cat, just pull it out. Is that my cat? No. You know, it got my daughter from, oh, I'm intimidated, it's my first like book like this, I can't do it, to having fun, being relaxed, wanting to pull out the flap and see what kind of cat, you know, that this guy was being told was his cat. And it was just so much fun, and DISTAR knew what it was doing. It was like, let's get your kid with a simple, fun book that makes them interested. And the next one it gave us, I don't know where it went. It was here. It's gone. It's wandered away. Okay. Oh, here it is. This one we just read tonight, and it was another the next step. It was like, okay, it's fun to read. There's not much reading to be done in this book. It mostly is just pictures. So what does your child make? What story does your child make with this picture? And again, she went from, I can't read that book, it's so big, to, oh, this is fun. I'm having fun. And then the rest of these, I know it's going to be similar because some of these we've had and we've been reading. It just starts off with simple repetition, some kind of fun, moving into more advanced as you go books. And it's just, I don't know, it's hard to describe how rewarding this system is. And then even after they're done, they give you the tools to move on. And then after that, they're like, just explore, just have fun, find what your kid likes, and make reading a joy. And I'm so pleased with it, and I'm so excited about it. And this is the stuff that they tell you to do. And so, of course, I'm going to show you my favorite reading lesson book in the world right here. So I wanted to make a history video on just a brief history of DISTAR. It actually has quite a big and interesting history. I intend to do a different video on that. So this Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons is actually an adaptation from the DISTAR Fast Track that was being used in schools to help children who had gotten behind and to catch them back up with their reading. And that was having good success. So Phyllis Haddix and Elaine Bruner are the people that said, hey, let's make a book for parents to teach their kids at home. And they did. And I think they did a great job. I'm gonna sing their praises. I think DISTAR is an incredible system. They did a great job, and we benefited from it. So, originally developed in the mid-1960s by Siegfried Engelmann and Wesley C. Baker, the DISTAR came from the University of Illinois. Siegfried Engelmann was there working on a project and a study to help children that were behind, were struggling, had been disadvantaged, were low income, just really struggling to keep up with their peers. And they created the direct instruction system, which is the DI part of DISTAR. And after he got done with that, he just evolved it, including math and literacy, along with reading, into DISTAR, which was what he did in the mid-1960s. As of 2011, when I was researching this, I found that it had been adapted into something called Reading Mastery, which is being used in some public schools. As of 2012, the article I was reading was saying that they're in every school across the United States, mostly being used for special education and such. But a more recent search shows that it's probably not being used in all of those anymore for some reason. And I don't know why, but I do have there is a list of some schools that are still using the direct instruction systems. And I'm assuming the reason it's been falling out and out and out is this little bullet I made right here. Teachers are reportedly complaining about the direct instruction program because of its heavily scripted nature. And so they modified it to suit their own needs, which means it's not going to be very effective. That means they're lazy. That means they didn't like being told what to do. They thought they had a better idea. Maybe it was too hard. I don't know what their deal was, but they decided to prioritize themselves over their students. And my guess is these teachers complaining and getting it taken out of schools is why it's getting less. But again, that's a guess. I have nothing but contempt for all the teachers in this little bullet right here. This, right? That's just nothing but contempt. That's pretty bad. And so moving on to our next slide. All right, now project follow through. This is where it gets interesting. This is where I really got my blood going when I was learning about this. From 1967, more late 1967, more in 1968 really, and until 1977. This project was funded by the federal government and designed to find the best way to teach at-risk students from grades K through 3, and that included minorities and low income, just students that were struggling, but they used all different students. They didn't just only focus on those. They also had high income, middle income. Every single one of them that went through DISTAR flourished from it. And if you look here at this little graph I have found, I will link where I got this in the description. It's a fascinating read. Is this line, this middle line at 0, is the standard performance of traditional schools in the 1960s, 1970s. And this one here is DISTAR, direct instruction, DISTAR. Next to it is your homeschool, parent education. And they also had no negatives, but they didn't help problem solving skills at all. And we are back after a little misclick there. So as I was saying, this is homeschool. They had no negatives. Behavior analytics was another academic program that was being tested at the time. That is the same as homeschool, a bit above standard school. Problem solving went through the floor, and self-esteem did go up. Our next one that did pretty good was Southwest Labs, another academic program. That one, their basic academic skills didn't get any better or worse from your basic 1970s school. Their problem solving went down, and then their self-esteem did go up, but not as high as these ones. And then these are all just negatives. There's self-esteem program, a problem-solving program, a problem-solving program, and a self-esteem program, and they all just absolute crap. They did really bad. They were way worse, especially this one, open education, whatever the heck this is. This was really, really bad. And so you can see here, only homeschooled children came close to DISTAR, and they didn't have any negatives. The next best, behavior analysis, had negatives in problem solving. DISTAR was the only program that even after this study ended and kids had moved off of it, because this was about a 9-year study, so they only did K through 3. So they would have had kids that went into 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade that they could have followed who were no longer on the direct instruction or any of these other programs. DISTAR was the only one that maintained a positive influence on its students even when they were no longer on the program and just back in regular school. And they were also far more likely to finish high school and seek higher education. They just had that basic foundation, a good solid foundation, and it just gave them what they needed to really get there, gave them that boost. And here we get to the fictional crazy bit of it. Despite this resounding success, the newly formed Department of Education chose not to share DISTAR with the public. It really comes down to one man who was in charge of it, and the senator who was asking about it, wanting to know which program they were going to fund to get it spread out to all the schools, which one worked. And the secretary was basically like, well, only one of them was really good, so we're not going to share it. We're just going to take random schools that succeeded and let fall copy them. That was insane to me. But it explains why our schools have gotten so bad and why the Department of Education came on the scene, their first big project, and a lot of schools are using these ones. These are common things still being used in schools today, the ones that made it worse. Thank you, Department of Education. Nicely done. So, yeah. DISTAR was the best. It was never shared, and it's never been widely used. And it's a shame, because you can see here just from the data how much better it was. It was even better than homeschool, and I think homeschool's the best thing you can do right now. So that's just insane to me. Well, that is the history of DISTAR, just a brief history. There's a lot more down that rabbit hole to go into if you want to. The link to where I got this chart is going to be in the description down below. Final thoughts on DISTAR. And we've gone through it a little bit. You kind of know what it does. Successes. I have a 5-year-old who just turned 5 and she's reading at a 2nd grade reading level. I have a 6-year-old who is also reading at a 2nd grade reading level, and they're doing fantastic. The things they can read surprises me, and it's amazing to watch them get that just confidence in that, hey, I can read this, I can do this. And then, you know, put my 5-year-old to bed the other night, come back 2 hours later, and she's literally still reading books. She's just been reading the whole time. So, like, they really got into it. I did have struggles with the system. There is a big thing that I had an issue with, and that is the writing, the sounds writing, which finishes every single lesson. The first time we did it, it did not very well explain to me in the text that your child is, especially up till about 8 years old, still potentially going to mirror images in their head due to the image our eyes get is literally upside down, and our brain has to turn it back around again. And that takes a lot of time and development to learn. And the first sounds they have you write is which is an M, and S, which is S. And S gets mirrored all which ways you could possibly imagine it. And we got pretty frustrated trying to get my first daughter to write the S, because she just kept mirroring it and mirroring it and mirroring it. And so that was a rough experience for her. So something you must know, your child will mirror things, and you just gotta, it's okay, it's meant to be fun. And as something I wish the book had explained more is, hey, your kid is probably going to mirror this. It's fine. It's just a development thing. They will grow out of it. So that is a problem I had with it. One of the other struggles I had with it is my kids entered a phase where they started getting anxious about getting anything wrong, any questions wrong. So you just have to take your time, slow down. You know, you can get through this. Don't make the correct answer be so important. It's more about what they got from the reading and what they think, what might happen. Oh, that's a good idea. That would be funny if that actually happened in the story. Not, oh, that's the wrong answer. That's not what they do. You gotta just let it be okay. So that they don't do that. The length of the lessons did increase, and so as we got farther in, what I started doing to remove stress from them is just splitting them up into 2 different lessons, essentially. So 1 lesson became 2. I'm not saying everyone has to do that, but that worked really well for me. But overall, it's an excellent system. I don't think you could find better. And I think what makes it so special above every other system I've come across with homeschooling is it does not let you fail your child. If you read the pink letters that they tell you to read and read it as they say it, you will not fail your child. It's just the way of saying it that just clicks with your child's brain, and there's no other system that you're going to find that does that. So I hope that helps. If you're considering DISTAR, I hope I made a good argument for it. I'm not selling DISTAR, I'm not being paid by DISTAR, but I want your child to succeed, and that's what I care about. So, have fun, everybody. The first sound is ah. And what's the second sound? Can you put them together? There's no E. It's just
Ammy.
Good job, buddy.
And black. She loved her cat, but when it was time to sleep, the cat came. The